Where is your bank account?
We actually have two bank accounts. Well, our main bank account is in Bank Boston, and then we have a household account, which is in a smaller neighborhood bank.
My bank account is with Bank Boston.
My bank account is at Fleet Bank.
The bank that I do business with is U.S. Trust.
Do you prefer big banks or small banks?
I prefer a big bank because they have experience and a range of services.
I prefer small banks, preferably because I think it's more intimate, it's more personal.
I prefer to work with a large bank because they have more services and their ATMs are more available and more convenient for me.
I definitely prefer small banks because I don't have to wait in line as often. They know me when I get there, and I don't have to worry about whether or not they recognize me or my account or if I've forgotten something.
Well, I prefer big banks because there's more of them around town.
I like big banks because they are all over the place.
Having my account in a big bank or a small bank doesn't really matter. That's not something that I think about.
What's at the bank?
I have a personal checking account and a savings account, a safe deposit box, and because I own my own business, I have a small business account.
I have both a checking and a savings account with a bank, but I also use the ATMs.
When I go to the bank, the service that I usually use is the checking and savings account and the ATM.
How often do you use the ATM?
I have an ATM card, which I actually use a lot.
It's usually about 3 to 4 times a week.
I use the ATM, I would say, on an average twice a week, maybe to get money to go to a movie or for lunch.
I don't like to use it too often.
I use my ATM card about twice a week, and I love it. I don't know how I ever lived without it.
Which do you use more often, checks or credit cards?
I use credit cards more than checks. I prefer the convenience of a credit card and keeping all of my expenses on one statement.
I would say I use checks more often. I try not to use credit cards, primarily because it can become a bad habit.
I usually use a combination of checks and credit cards depending on where I'm doing business. When I go shopping, I usually use checks. I use credit cards when I ran out of money.
I use credit cards more often than checks. My credit card allows me to earn frequent flyer miles on an airline.
I use checks more often. I don't like to use credit cards. They cost money.
Unfortunately, I believe I use my credit card more than I use the checks, mostly because people don't accept checks, and credit card is much easier to use, and I can trace my spending that way.
I use checks more often, and I use them because I just don't like having the bills that come with the credit cards.
That's all for today. Don't forget to practice what you learned when you go to the bank. See you next time.